All right, welcome everyone. My name is Brett Edwardson, and my presentation here is going to be on how to dissect a nutritional fact label. So let's get into it. So first things first, our instructional goals. I want to help my students identify and define the major components of a nutritional fact label, for instance, serving size, calories, macro, micronutrients, etc. Next, I want to explain the importance of serving sizes and then interpret percent daily value. And lastly, I want to evaluate food labels to make more informed, health conscious decisions. So, moving on to the presentation here. First things first, right? We want to talk about the serving size and calories. So, if you see up top where everything is highlighted, we can notice that a serving size equates to 1 bar, but the servings per container is 6. So, what does that really mean? So, that means in the box, right? You can go to the food store, you get a box of something. There is going to be 6 protein bars in that box. Everything underneath is really talking about 1 bar. So 1 protein bar, right? We're talking about a chocolate peanut butter protein bar right here. And we're gonna be getting into the total fat, carbohydrates, protein. Those three I just listed are known as macronutrients. Macronutrients provide energy. In other words, they provide calories. So everything you're looking at, all these calories, 290 calories, they're all stemming from three things: fat, carbohydrates, and protein. Moving on here. So first things first, right? After you check the serving sizes and what you're looking at, we want to see up top the fat. So we notice that there are 8 grams of fat in this one protein bar. And you might be thinking, okay, cool. What's so great about 8 grams of fat? I thought fat was bad. So fat is actually essential. Your body cannot survive without any fat. Fat fuels the body for long term. It is important for hormone and nerve function as well. And then you take the 8 grams of fat, you multiply that by 9 because there are 9 calories per gram of fat, which is more than double that of carbohydrates and protein, which we'll get into just a little later. So you do 8 times 9, which equals 72. And then up top here highlighted, you can see that calories from fat, 70. So 72, 70. We're talking about a difference of 2 calories. So really this 8 grams of fat might be closer to 7.9 or something like that. But in order to keep it uniform and whole numbers, they don't go into decimal points when talking about the macronutrients like that. So underneath the fat, we can see 2 types of fat: saturated, trans fat. Those are the only 2 that this food label is specifying. Obviously, those 2 do not equate to 8 grams of total fat. So they're probably leaving out just your plain Jane ordinary fats, polyunsaturated, monounsaturated, all of that. Saturated fat is essential. Trans fat, you could live without that. That is not essential. That's like man-made fryer oil fat. Not good for you, not good for your heart, not good for your health. So moving on down the food labels. So then we want to notice and check the cholesterol, sodium, potassium contents. So right here you can see that there are 0 micrograms of cholesterol, which is a good thing. It's not a ton of, I wouldn't say it's a bad thing, because there are 2 different types of cholesterol lipids. So you have HDL, which is high density lipids, which are good for you. You need those, heart healthy. And then you have LDL, low density lipids, which are bad for you. You want to steer clear of those. So really, as long as there's no trans fat, there's not going to be any LDL. So LDL is bad for you. And then HDL is good for you, but there's no cholesterol to even consider, worry about. Next one down is sodium. So we have 440 micrograms of sodium, which is 18% of your daily value, which we're going to really cover and dive into in just a little bit. And then underneath that, we have potassium. So if you can think back to biology class and think about a sodium potassium pump, right? Those 2 things are essential for muscle contraction. So without those 2, muscles will cramp, they won't function properly, they won't fire quickly. So you want to make sure that you are consuming sodium, potassium. Again, your body cannot survive without either of those 2 nutrients. I know sodium gets a bad rep of being really bad for your health, but again, without it, your body will cease to be able to function properly or at all. And then moving down, we have our carbohydrates. So carbohydrates is extremely broad. carbohydrates is basically a fancy word for sugar. So when you see sugar, think carbohydrates. When you see carbohydrates, think sugar and fiber as well. So in this particular protein bar, there are 25 grams of carbohydrates, three of which come from fiber, right? Fiber is a complex carbohydrate, which means multi molecules, which is good, right? It's hard for your body to break down, or your body can't break it down at all. That's fiber's job, to push everything along in the gastrointestinal tract. And then sugars, there are 8 grams of sugars in it. So again, does not equating up to 25. So there's other types of carbohydrates in there that are not being specified. And that's another thing we're going to learn about nutritional fact labels, is that they can be very, very vague. They don't have to be ultra specific and tell you exactly what's going into a specific food item, which is not always the best. I digress. So we come down here to the left bottom side. You can see the carbohydrates are the body's fast-acting fuel source. So if you begin a workout, exercise, sports game, immediately you're going to be dipping into your carbohydrate storage, which are stored in muscles and your liver. It's also your brain's primary fuel source. So if you're cutting out carbohydrates completely, you're going to get the sensation of fogginess, grogginess, all of that. And then, right, I mentioned fat has 9 calories per gram. Carbohydrates have 4 calories per gram. So 4 calories per gram of carbohydrates. So we take the 25 carbohydrates, multiply that by 4, we get 100. 100 calories are coming from those 25 grams of carbohydrates. So we would go up top, boom. So we can see 290 calories total. I'm just going to circle that for us. So we can see 290 calories total. So 100 of those calories are coming from carbohydrates. And we can see right here, the other 70 are coming from fat. So we're up to 170 grams total, and 100 of those are coming from carbohydrates, 70 from fat. Again, moving on, we want to check our protein contents at the way bottom, right? We have 30 grams of protein, which is a significant amount of protein. Protein is the building block of muscle, and like carbohydrates, there are also 4 calories per gram. So we do 30 times 4, which is 120. We would add that into our total calories in the food product, and that would take us up to the 290 total calories that you see up there. So again, fat, carbohydrates, protein, those 3 things are the only things that produce calories in a food item. So 30 grams of protein is again a significant amount. Moving on, at the bottom here, we want to check our vitamin and mineral contents. So you can see in this particular protein bar, there's not an overwhelming amount of vitamins and minerals, but there are some, like calcium, some iron, some phosphorus. There's not any vitamin A or vitamin C. They just wanted to make that clear. And there's also a multitude of other vitamins and minerals that they could list and put at 0%. But these are our main ones. So you want these percentages, right? It doesn't really give you micrograms or anything like that. But you want these percentages to be at or 100% after your last meal of the day. So obviously you don't need to get 100% of your vitamin A from this protein bar, but it should, be chipping away at it, 10, 20, 30% would be ideal. But obviously this protein bar is a supplement. It's not a whole food. It shouldn't be all you're eating in a day. And then down the right-hand side, we see all these percentage values. So what that is down low here, right here, right? It's really depicting what these percentages mean. So these percentages are based off of what they call average 2,000 calorie per day diet. So if you're eating 2,000 calories per day, you should be 8 grams of fat is 12% of what you should be eating, and then saturated fat 23. It's going to skip down to carbohydrates, right? You need a lot of carbohydrates throughout the day because it's fast-acting energy. It doesn't take much for your body to use for energy. And then protein is all the way up to 50%. So they recommend you get 60 grams of protein per day. Now, if you're an athlete or you're weight training or something like that, you would like to increase that protein intake. But for the average person doing average things, 30 grams of protein, 60 grams of protein total is more than enough. So looking at these numbers, right, you might be like, what do they mean exactly? So we look down here, we can see that 5% or less is low. So we're looking at cholesterol, that's considered low. And that'd be really the only thing considered like ultra low. Obviously 7%, 8%, those are on the lower side of the spectrum. And then anything with 20% or more is considered high. So saturated fat, this would be considered high. Protein, this would be considered high. Protein is good, saturated fat, A-okay. Again, moderation. You don't want too much saturated fat. So that's what these percentages on the right-hand side actually mean. And then we want to look at the ingredients list. So on the right-hand side, we see ingredients. So this is really important because this is stating everything that's in it, kinda, right? I'm about to highlight this one word where they get you. They say natural flavors. So natural flavors can mean many different things. They don't even have to be natural. It's just a way of them getting around, and they just throw this little concoction into the protein bar, and they're like, yep, you can try to guess what it is. So again, that's how food companies get around of adding harmful, sneaky things into food items that they don't even need to specify. Again, food label can be vague. So the order of operations here is what you read first has the most. So it's from order of most to least. So in this particular protein bar, there is mostly soy protein isolate, followed by whey protein, more whey protein, and then sugar, partially defatted peanut flour, so on and so forth. So it goes from most to least, from top to bottom. And then you also want to look out for hidden words, like other words for sugar. So obviously this one, where is it? They're front and center about that they have sugar in their product. It's eluding me right now. When I find it, I'll circle it. Oh, there it is, right on cue, right here. So they're upfront about it, but a lot of companies like to hide the fact that they have sugar. So they might say, oh, 0 sugar this, 0 sugar that. And then you read the ingredient list and you'll see words like corn syrup or high fructose corn syrup or high fructose or sucralose, cane sugar, dextrose. Those are all synonyms for sugar. They could be lab made, they could be natural occurring, but there's many different ways that food companies like to disguise sugar so the average person can interpret and know what they're looking at. And then down here is just an easy check for the new allergies, rather. So a person with like milk allergies, they're always just going to be able to flip the item around, look at the nutritional fact label, come down here, look for contains milk, peanuts, soy. So if you have any of these allergies, put the product down. You don't want to touch that. You don't want to eat that. And then right here, I have my exit ticket. So let me just get off this pen. Yeah, so right here I have a QR code that my students can scan. I have it scanned. I have it customized here with my William Penn logo, so they can take out their cell phones or tablet, scan that, or they want to download the PowerPoint, they can come here and click the link. So I'm just going to go ahead and click the link. And then this is the exit ticket. So they just want to provide their name, 3 important things that they learned today, what is something that they wish to explore further, and lastly, what would help make today's lesson more effective, so feedback for the teacher. So this is my presentation on how to decipher and dissect a food label. I appreciate everyone for listening and following along, and I hope you gained something of value out of this. Thank you so much.